Okay.
artist.
Thank you, Simon, for the invite. I suspect this is going to be quite a general overview, but I think there is some points worthy of discussion, and I hope there's going to be some questions, and there's certainly, I hope, going to be time for questions in what I'm going to say here. So, some initial thoughts on Wig Wag. Michelle Banksfix, who's very famous performer from Stein, is what I'm looking at here. So, I'm interested in electrically assisted work that has emerged in live performance. Really, what I'm saying is, I'm a practitioner, guilty as charged. I'm a little bit anxious about the word analysis, also slightly scared of the word academic occasionally as well. But what I'm wanting to do today isn't tell you how I'm going to analyse this piece. It's ask some questions, look for a way forward in terms of analysis, and ask how does analysis potentially function within the paradigm of practice as research. That's what I'm kind of interested in. So, practice as research, reflective practice. This is my general way of working. This is what my work is about. But, within that, writing itself has changed how I understand practice. Writing originally sought to account for. And verbal language in written form is a useful space to unfold and examine ideas. I'm not trying to be kind of anti-thinking about things, anti-talking about it, and anti-working through ideas. Michelle Banksfix, seen here with his instrument in the hands, the late Michelle Banksfix, unfortunately. A very, very beautiful instrument, 2 rings of wood, lots of touch sensors, movement sensors, infrared. I'm not going to say too much about this actual instrument, but there's very little documentation. It was very anti-documentation. It didn't record for a long time. It didn't make albums. So the live stuff tends to be, there is some really stunning YouTube clips, but it's not a very high quality. And a lot of the writing, thinking about kind of new instruments, musical expression, and that entire paradigm of gestural music, there's a lot of writing on the interface, that way of interacting with technology. But is there that much writing on the music? And I suppose I'll get to that. I'm going further on. So I have got a YouTube clip of them performing quite low quality, but you probably won't see that. What I want to play you is what my focus actually is. And this recording was made with DRM, very close to field saxophone capture, careful mixing, dynamic processing, performance, and interpretation is very suitable for unscripted listening. It's emerged. So I haven't got any kind of analytical flash movies or anything yet, but I really want to play this, only performance long. And then duo engaging entirely in improvised music making. Arguably, especially in terms of Mindfulness, the composition for this work is happening outside. It's happening in terms of instrument building, organising the samples that can be used, processing techniques, the craftsmanship of the instrument. So then, if we're just analysing the sound, I'm not saying we are, but if we're just analysing the performance, I wonder how much we would be able to learn from that. Let me continue. Okay. So, Whitefish was an amazing performance to behold, but we do not see him to appreciate that here. I feel like this recording really brings this practice into focuses this practice into a good place for concentrated listening. The presence of the saxophone, I hope, will provide very useful counterpoint to the analysis. So, my first thoughts on this, in terms of what is going to be most useful, is the question of gesture and its decipherability. Play versus playback. A lot of recording media is about playback. It is about recording, documenting, playing. But what about kind of DJ approach, kind of playfulness? So actually playing with materials, engaging with something which on one level is fixed if we assume to put it back in a linear way, but on another level isn't. So there's recognisable material in there which will be used many times before by hits, but it's used in different ways. And then live acoustic sound versus pre-recorded samples / live electronics. So a question which is fairly common now, to what extent can sound be attributed to the events that cause them? So are we hearing causes or are we just hearing sounds as time to sing? And this one. Sound, colour and timbre are negotiated collaboratively in this recording. I.e. in a duo there is often a sense that this is my sound and that is your sound. But when listening to playback the recording, one question often emerges. Where did all this other stuff come from? And I think especially working with electronics like this kind of duo scenario, there's a form of triangulation that goes on, where one person's playing, somebody else is playing. But how conscious is the response? If somebody is setting processes in motion, intervening in established trajectories so that the parameters, the variables are being controlled, what levels of autonomy are going on there? And I'm hoping that approaching this with the software which I'm completely new to could be quite useful. But I'd like to take a slight tangent. Probably now go even more general than mine. So, in the opening sentence of craftsman, Senate, no, it's a debt to the philosopher Richard Foley, which seems to articulate the very premise of the book. At a point when I was stuck in my work, he asked me, what was your guiding intuition? Replied in spirit of knowledge, making distinct, to be convinced. So this idea of making distinct seems quite useful to me. Slightly longer quote, and later on in the same book. The craftsman has been able to call to his or her aid a capacity and a dignity ingrained in the human body, signifying acts as simple as human comprehension, as complex as the lessons of resistance and ambiguity into human tools and physical constructs in intelligible form. Unity of the craftsman's mind and body can be found in the expressed language that characteristic of action. The origins of all these words are as well as simple, as elemental, as physical, as playing games with toys. So, applying back over to Whitefish here, this to me seems like a craftsperson making and thinking. Very, very playful touch. Very, very playful approach, all about touch and the relationship between touch and sound. So, Charles Whitefish and the entire ideology of style seem where he's based, seem to be kind of wrapped up in craftsmanship, hacking versus engineering, and a slight aside to somebody else's style, this idea of knowing how and knowing when to align these forward. So, the assertion that making is thinking also resonates with William James's "My thinking is first and last and always considered by doing," and is properly paraphrased as thinking is by doing. And we return to the idea of thinking and doing, and analysis and practice. And the question that I don't pretend to have the answers to, but want to say a little bit about, is how might analysis contribute to an enacted process of reflexive practice as research? So, I'm interested in this, but I can't provide any answers. But there's some interesting work done by something called the Senseless Knowledge Research Series, and specifically something called Aslan Nimes, who puts forward this idea of what artistic research should be, or what it should involve. It's an awful diagram, hence the title. So, own language, theory, artistic material. And for her, own language is the language of the researcher. The artistic process is always in various ways embedded in the researcher's own words and expressions. Everyday phrases, concepts from more or less internalized theoretical knowledge, metaphors, analogies, parts of narratives, or very rare, personal body language. In short, own language includes the artistic register with which the individual is already familiar. So the position that we are at when we approach the research. And that's drawn as a circle, showing that it's in some way organic, some way unified, some way whole. And theory, which is the square on the right and the fractured square, Nimes believes that theory is ideology, a set of notions combined to form a reasonable cluster. She draws theory as a square to indicate that it is in some way an artificial language, and therefore an artificial, constructive way of viewing the world. But theory can become one language, and I think the example she gives is the techniques and training a dancer goes through. It's then completely, she actually says all of them, it's completely obvious in the way that dancer then walks across the floor. You can see that. You can see that there is something developed there. But own language can also become theory, i.e. from practice we hypothesize, we test, do more practice. So the practice, or what is here called artistic material field expression, field of material that one wants to explore. Nimes considers this the energy center of artistic research, suggesting that the artistic material is in command of the situation, and that often the material at hand demands a new kind of tools. And I think that's quite useful, considering the tools that are in development here. It's not necessarily just tools for new forms of practice, but what about tools for analysing? What about tools for theoretical forms of development? And I suppose what I'm wondering, and this is just a very loose collection of ideas, is can analysis be useful in all three of these areas? I suspect it can. I don't feel I have the evidence and training to make that claim, but that is my kind of way of kind of going forward. So, I guess, that's where I'm going to leave it with that kind of question. And hopefully there will be some questions.
Thank you, John. I have one, if I may, John.
Yeah.
Launch. You did decide not to use grainy U-tubes.
Yeah.
So you obviously have an interest in how the sound world itself expresses some of the very human attributes that you were describing elsewhere in the talk. Just take me through that again. Why reject grainy U-tubes and go for brilliant performance? And by the way, was that GRM performance unedited?
I'd like to say that. Let me answer that bit first, because it's quite important, and I realise I've talked very little at all about improvisation and all of this. So, my understanding is that in terms of the start and the end point, that is unedited.
Yeah.
But the performance, there was 4 different versions of this album. The performers simply turned up and played, composed, made music, and actually, the final edit of what was going to be in the album was simply left in the hands of the record companies. So they didn't actually have any, they couldn't make the decision. Apparently this went on for a long time, it's all listed in the album. I don't think I really am rejecting kind of grainy YouTube videos, but I feel there's a lot of emphasis on kind of interaction, study of gesture. There's a lot of work already existing that looks at the relationship between the instrument and the performer. And I still largely want to do that. That is what I'm most interested in here. But it's almost as if occasionally the music is just a byproduct. Guilty as charged as a practitioner, I sometimes feel like I turn up, play a gig, and the music is a byproduct of processes that I've already invested in. So there's a little bit of kind of myself thinking, well, maybe I really need to pay more attention to the resultant sounds from these practices. I'm not sure that entirely answers your question, but does it go in some direction?
Some direction, yes. Well, I'll hand over. Andy, would you like to set up? Well,
Sure.
well, any more questions for John? I'm not coming to discuss with
Well, I guess I'll pick up where you left off, because knowing Michel very well, I'm shocked that he would allow a record company to do anything that he performed. Dealing with an audio-only recording of this is intriguing for the listener because you don't know who's doing what and how. So what you see is not what you get because you don't see anything. But if you were to analyze this further on the basis of batch recording, what would you be looking for?
I'm not sure.
Because the language of performance is out. You don't know who played what. I'm sure there are a lot of things that you could look into, but I'm just curious what
Yeah.
your thoughts are.
I guess I'm assuming that we can interpret who played what. We can make some by ear, separation of what's the kind of saxophone gesture, what is the electronics, what is the kind of grabbed sample of audio which is then being thrown back. I'm guessing that there's a kind of human interpretation that's possible there. I'm wondering what the analysis will show, whether they will be kind of similar, different, completely impossible to resolve. I mean, we know there is two parallel agents working behind this. Is the system going to show that at all?
Well, I thought I could, breath sounds, saxophone, sampled squiggles and squabbles, Michel.
Yeah.
And that kind of duality is very interesting. But they could have pulled fast one on us and recorded some saxophone breath sounds.
Yes, well, that's exactly
I
what I'm
mean-
thinking about.
Yeah.
Isn't that very ambiguity actually, that actually one of the central parts of any analysis?
I think
So the fact that you can't tell, or it's very difficult to tell, it actually becomes an extremely interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to arrive at any big conclusions on this, but I think there's a lot of kind of open-ended questions which are worth looking at. And there is, you can tell in kind of stereo field, kind of listening on headphones especially, it is easier to identify what is what. There's a little bit more information there than you might think, and I suppose on most people that might be visually possible to identify.
Yeah.
But
Can you talk to Senoe?
I haven't, but I would very much like to. I think that would be a very